Hey, Dandy Walker community. I'm Chris Rogers, the Executive Director of the Dandy Walker Alliance. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Paula Muller. For the second year in a row, Paula is gearing up to run the New York City Half Marathon in honor of her son, Andrew, who has Dandy Walker. Last year, Paula raised more than $15,000 for the Dandy Walker Alliance in preparation for the race, and we're so excited that she will again be raising money for Dandy Walker research and awareness this year. Paula, thank you so much for joining me today to talk about your son, Andrew, and your inspiration to run the New York Half Marathon for the Dandy Walker Alliance.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, Paula, why don't we jump right in today? Tell me a little bit about your family. How did you learn that Andrew has Dandy Walker, and what has the journey and the process looked like since then?
Yeah, so our journey started really early when Andrew, actually, kind of when I was pregnant, even with Andrew, the doctor suggested an amniocentesis, which I thought was sort of routine because I was 35 at the time. But in hindsight now, it wasn't really routine. They did see something, and they saw some fluid on his neck or something. But we did the amnio, and the results were normal. But there was always that kind of wonder in the back of my mind. Then we
Mhm.
had him, and the birth itself was very sort of traumatic. I was in labor for many hours, and then we did an emergency C-section. And when a baby comes out, they have a score of, kind of their overall health stats. And his was very low. His APGAR score was very low at first. He wasn't crying or making noise. So that was very worrying. But when, he started and he was fine. But I think I sensed something right away. That's my point, I guess, in telling you that, because it was sort of right from the beginning. And when he came home, I sort of sensed something was off. He wasn't really looking at me. He wasn't sort of moving properly. I just didn't know. And being a first-time mom, it wasn't very, clear to me. So anyway, by 6 months, I talked to my doctor about Andrew, and he was on board, and he set me up with Birth to Three, which is our state-run service that provides therapies to children with special needs. I think it's called different things in different states. And they came in, and by 9 months old, Andrew was having like 25 hours of therapy a week in our house, of OT, PT, speech. He wasn't really talking, but like speech type work, and just floor time, which is more just the socializing and just play therapy. So that was amazing, that we were able to get all those services, and they actually diagnosed him with autism at around the same time. So those services were kind of based on that diagnosis. So we went along, and it was obviously a very stressful, challenging time, but he continued to do really well. And then he started to see a lot of doctors. He had eye issues, he had ear issues, he had tubes like 4 times put in. He had reflux really severely, like he threw up pretty much every day till he was about 3. So he had a lot of things going on that we couldn't really put together. And then his ophthalmologist suggested he have an MRI when he was 2. And the MRI revealed an incidental finding of Dandy Walker. So in other words, we weren't looking for that. We were just trying to confirm whether his eye issues were muscular or neurological. And they found this incidental finding of Dandy Walker variant from that. And so we immediately went to see a neurologist with the results. And it was interesting because the neurologist that we chose, a pediatric neurologist, was very knowledgeable in Dandy Walker. We actually drove like 3.5 hours to see him in New Jersey. And he basically he just made everything make sense. Like all of Andrew's issues kind of made sense under this Dandy Walker diagnosis. And so as much as it was, upsetting and having this happen, it was also very relieving to realize that we sort of knew, or at least like had an idea of what was going on, and we were heading in the right direction, which was reassuring. Even though it was an autism diagnosis, we were still getting the same therapies that they would have recommended for Dandy Walker. And so when he started in school, in elementary school, he continued with all these therapies. However, they do at the school, they ended up doing a retesting of everything, because that's what they do every 3 years. And he was no longer diagnosed with autism according to their testing. So because he had the Dandy Walker diagnosis as a medical diagnosis, he was able to maintain all his services through elementary school, which was great. So he continued through elementary school, and every year he just seemed to grow more and more into himself. Like he just got stronger physically, he got more social, he got glasses, his eyes were doing well. I mean, everything just kind of seemed to go along very well. And I think that he's maintained this, he will maintain the Dandy Walker diagnosis for life, obviously. So having this now, then through middle school, he excelled, and then now he's in high school, he's a sophomore. And so he's no longer, we revisit every year his IEP, which is his specialized program for having Dandy Walker. And he no longer needs a lot of the services. So that some of them have fallen off. He's doing really well. He doesn't have any extra like academic services. He never had academic. It was all physical and more occupational therapy type thing. But right now he doesn't have any services at the school, at the high school, and he's doing really, really well.
Well, Paula, thank you so much for sharing a bit about Andrew's journey. It's so wonderful to hear how well he's doing, and it really sounds like he's thriving now in high school. Could you share a little bit about what he's involved in, and what his passions are in school? I know he's the recent recipient of a big award, right?
Yeah, so well, he's doing great. So he's been on honors ever since he started high school, which is great. He works very hard. He's very disciplined, and he's been getting involved with, well, first he got involved with the row team and he did a bit of track. But one of the things that is really drawn him in has been the TV broadcasting. That this is his second year he's taken that course. It's an elective and he loves it. The teacher can't, say enough about Andrew and how well he's doing and how much he helps the program. And that's just gotten him really involved. And so the teacher actually nominated him, the broadcast teacher, for this award that's given out every month at the high school to 2 students, and from throughout the whole high school. And this is quite a large high school. And Andrew ended up getting awarded the student of the month. So we're very proud. And that just kind of it's an all around, he just exemplifies what they look for in a good student and in a good person, and kind of all around achievements.
Well, it sounds like you and Andrew really have a lot to be proud of. And I think Andrew's growth and success can be an inspiration for a lot of other Dandy Walker families out there. So I really appreciate you taking the time to share his story. So, Paula, I know you're an avid runner and you're no stranger to marathons and half marathons. But last year, you decided to run the New York City Half Marathon as a fundraiser for the Dandy Walker Alliance. What inspired you to take on this endeavor?
Yeah, so many years back, when Andrew was still diagnosed with under the autism diagnosis, I actually ran the New York City Marathon for Autism Speaks. And that was a really amazing experience. And I think, we were close to $20,000. It was just amazing. It was just such a rewarding, special race for me. And like you said, I've done a lot of marathons and half marathons, but that one just stood out as something very different and special. And so I got into the lottery for the New York Half again last year. I've done it a few times where you enter through the lottery. And so I got in and I don't know, I was sitting one day thinking about it and I just was like, I'm going to reach out to Dandy Walker Alliance because I knew about it after joining the Facebook group and see if I can fundraise for them just on my own. And anyway, it just took off. I spoke with Eric and one thing led to another. And before you know it, there I was like, yeah, doing fundraising and people were being very, very receptive.
And last year that seemed to go really well. You ended up raising more than $15,000 for Dandy Walker research and awareness. Can you walk me through the fundraising process for you and how did you make it such a success?
Sure. Yeah, last year, I think one of the biggest things was my husband's work. They do a monthly choosing of a charity or a type of event that they want to sponsor, and then everyone gets to dress down for the day. So he put in for Andrew, we did a write-up and he put that in and they picked Andrew for that. And it just was this huge thing where they put like they did promotions, they throughout the month and sent out emails to all his coworkers, and they matched all of the donations that were made. So that was a huge, huge part of our success last year. And then I also was working at an elementary school, and I did this whole little display that I set up in the teacher's lounge and explained what was happening and gave out. Eric sent me a bunch of things to hand out to people, like little nail files, Dandy Walker nail files, things like that people I gave out. And it was just, I don't know, it just sort of took on a life of its own, and the excitement was just very real. And I think too, it happened kind of quickly within the last month before the race. So it just gained momentum throughout that period.
Well, we're really appreciative of everything you did last year, and we're so excited to have you back on board this spring to continue to make an impact. So now it's a little more than a month out from this year's New York Half Marathon in March. What are you most excited for this year, both for the race and for the fundraising effort?
Yeah, so so you and I are just getting started on the fundraiser. I think it's the perfect time, beginning of February. The race is in March. It's March 19th. So that gives us a good amount of, I think 6 weeks is a good amount of time. I'm just really excited to reach out again to all my friends and families and Tom's work and tell them again about Andrew and how well he's been doing, and thanking them for their support last year and hoping that they'll want to support us again this year. I mean, it's our journey, it's our personal journey. And I think people just really respond to that when you really, tell them about what happened and what's going on. And anyone who knows Andrew, which is a lot of obviously friends and family, just knows he's just such a sweet, endearing person. And he's such a love. And so he's someone that draws people to him, and people, I think too, want to help and want to be a part of that. So I'm really excited to do the fundraising. The race, I'm really excited about. This just adds a whole different angle to my training when I do this, because, it's kind of a selfish thing when you run a lot of the time, because you're just out there on your own, and I'm just running, and I'm usually running for a certain time that I want to get. But this just changes everything, where it's not about that. It's about something completely different and bigger than me. And it's just such a cool feeling. And it's something that I think I look for that more now as I've gotten older in my life. And it's something that because running, today I didn't want to go for a run and it was freezing out. And this knowing I'm doing this got me out the door, on my run, and it felt good. And so there's a really big motivation factor for me.
I totally get that. It gives you kind of a bigger purpose when you're running for a cause that's so near and dear to your heart. Like I know Andrew is obviously for you. Well, Paula, thank you so much for taking the time to chat today and for all that you're doing to raise awareness and raise money for the Dandy Walker Alliance. Your work is benefiting not only you and Andrew and your family, but so many families like yours across the country and around the world. And the Dandy Walker community is really lucky to have you. So, best of luck with the upcoming race, and I can't wait to touch base soon and hear how it goes.
Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate it.